to Studying Business in the UK webinar. My name is Semra Yalçın. I am the Education Manager at the British Council, working here for 17 years. Today, I'm joined by distinguished panelists, Mark Ridolfo, who is the Principal Academic at Bournemouth University, and Sideeq Mohammed, a lecturer at University of Kent. We also have Nuria from Bournemouth University. Before starting the webinar, I would like to give you a bit of information about the British Council. We are the United Kingdom's international organization for cultural relations and education opportunities. We work with over 100 countries in the fields of arts and culture, English language, education, and civil society. We deliver our work in line with our global policy of equal opportunity and welcome people from all sections of the communities. Our key role is to support you with your UK education journey by providing most up-to-date and accurate information on studying and living in the UK. Let me share some housekeeping notes with you. This webinar is open to all students and parents and delivered in English. We are unable to offer any translation during the live event. This session will last for 1 hour. We'll record this webinar and share it widely through our channels. Our panelists will be happy to answer your questions. Please write them in the question and answer section. We'll do the questions at the end. We organized 7 webinars this week. Our program will end with the jobs of the future that will be delivered after this webinar at 6 o'clock today. Just to remind, if you are interested in similar activities, please make sure that you follow us on our British Council media channels. Now, I would like to hand over to Mark to start the session. Mark, over to you now.
Merhaba, Semra. Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you. So welcome to this session, which is all about studying business and management in the UK with a particular focus on undergraduate programs, but we can also talk a little bit about postgraduate programs if you would like us to. We're going to split this session into 2 parts. I'm going to talk for around 20 minutes on the studying business and management at Bournemouth University. And then I'm going to hand over to Sideeq to talk about studying Bournemouth and management at the University of Kent. And then that's going to leave us a little bit of time at the end to answer any general questions that you might have. And within our presentations, although we're going to talk about our particular university, we're also going to talk about studying business and management and indeed studying in general in the UK, so that hopefully you can get an idea of what to expect. So I'm going to share with you now, I hope, a presentation that I've prepared. So if you just bear with me whilst I share my screen. So can you now see my screen, which has a logo in the top right corner that says Degrees of Difference, and then the Bournemouth University logo? Yes, is that okay? Good.
Yes,
okay.
All good.
So as I said, my name is Mark Ridolfo. I'm a principal academic at here at Bournemouth University here on the south coast of the United Kingdom. Bournemouth University is what's known as a post-92 university. So we're a modern university, a former polytechnic that specialises in professionally oriented programs. In other words, employability is a very strong focus of our university. In general, in the UK, any university that was established after the 1990s or perhaps 1970s tends to be a more modern focused university, less traditional and less academic, but still obviously pursuing the 3 pillars of a good education and experience, which is education, research, and professional practice. We are particularly recognised at Bournemouth University for our links with industry and employers. And in fact, we have more students undergoing a placement, you might think of this as an internship, than any other university in the UK. And we have particularly strong relationship with employers on the business and management programme, which I lead. Bournemouth University is a medium-sized university by UK standards. We have around 17,500 students, of whom around 2,800 are from outside of the UK, from over 135 countries. And we have a very strong contingency of students from Turkey, particularly on our postgraduate programs. We have 2 campuses. One is called the Talbot campus and one is called the Lansdowne campus. But Bournemouth is a relatively small town. and so it's very easy to get around and to get from place to place. In terms of rankings, we went up 26 places this year in the Times University Guide, and also 17 places in the Guardian University Guide, which places us around number 56 out of 120 UK universities. And we are one of the top 400 universities in the world, and amongst the best 100 young universities in the world. That's universities under the age of 50. Our business school is particularly renowned, having recently achieved AACSB accreditation, which I shall talk about in a few moments. So AACSB accreditation is a world-renowned accreditation for business schools. They are mostly based, or they were mostly based originally in the United States, and now we have AACSB accredited universities all over the world. And what the AACSB accreditation tells you is that we've been able to demonstrate excellence in all areas, but particularly education, research, developing our courses, and student learning. And we were particularly commended by the AACSB for our high levels of student employability, which are amongst the highest in the UK. So you can be very confident that if you come to Bournemouth University, and also almost all of other universities in the UK, that you will receive an education of a very highest quality. However, only 5% of the world's business schools have the AACSB accreditation. And in the UK, there are around 34 universities that have this accreditation. So Bournemouth itself is a beautiful town on the south coast of England, approximately 1 hour and 50 minutes by train from central London. It's by the sea. It's a very popular tourist destination. And you can see perhaps from the photos some of the images of Bournemouth, including the world famous air show, which is hosted annually in Bournemouth. We have a population of around 185,000 people. And as I said, it's a very popular tourist resort with 12 kilometers of sandy beaches. I can't promise, however, that the beaches will be as beautiful as the ones in Turkey, and I don't think the weather will be quite as hot. It's a very safe town, very friendly, cosmopolitan and international, with lots of entertainment, shopping, restaurants, parks and leisure facilities. And as I said, it's around 1 hour and 50 minutes from London by train, or 2 hours by coach. At Bournemouth University, like in many universities, our business school is not just concerned with business and management, but we also have a range of other subjects, including accounting, economics, events management, finance, hospitality, marketing, tourism and sport. So if you're interested in any of those areas, we also have courses at undergraduate and postgraduate level in those areas. The undergraduate program that I manage, which is in business and management, is broken down into a number of pathways that you can see listed here. So if you have an interest in, for example, operations management or marketing or project management, but you want to have a strong business focus as well, this might be an attractive program for you. Business and management degrees in the UK tend to have quite a few things in common. They are generally focused on the professions. They are designed to try to help you to get a good job when you graduate. They also tend to have quite a strong focus on a student-centered learning environment. And they are balancing two objectives, making sure that you have the necessary academic knowledge and understanding, but also that we help you to develop your employability-related skills. And at Bournemouth University, you have the opportunity to undertake a 30-week optional placement during your third year. So the program can be either 3 years or 4 years, depending on whether or not you undertake a placement. One thing that makes our program quite distinctive is the international aspect of the program. International staff from all over the world, international students, around about 18% of the students on the program are from overseas. The opportunity to study abroad as part of your program during the second year, and also modules that focus on the international dimension of business. The reason we have this very strong focus on international business is because, as I'm sure you are all aware, the world of work is changing and the economic balance of power is changing. We can see that, for example, although the global economy is predicted to increase in the next couple of years, that increase is predominantly within emerging markets and developing economies, with much slower growth rate amongst the advanced economies. And you also will be aware that the balance of power is moving away from the traditional economic superpowers of the United States, Japan, and Europe, and towards emerging economies such as China, India, Indonesia, and of course, Turkey. The other really big focus for us at Bournemouth University is preparing you for what is sometimes called 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And the Fourth Industrial Revolution is a reflection of how work is changing. And I'll be talking about that a little bit this afternoon in my webinar, but also the new skills that employers are looking for. Things like critical thinking, problem solving, active learning, resilience, the ability to tolerate stress, and flexibility. And it's predicted that around half of the workforce will need to reskill in the next 5 years in order to cope with what is sometimes called double disruption, the double disruption of the pandemic and the increasing use of automation and artificial intelligence. So Bournemouth University's approach is about developing your 21st century skills, skills around literacy, competencies for managing in the workplace, and also what we might call character qualities, persistence, adaptability, social awareness, and cultural awareness. At Bournemouth University, and I think this is probably true of Kent, and I think it's probably true of some other universities as well, there's a professional focus, an emphasis on experiential learning, in other words, working on real problems with real clients, an emphasis on independent learning, but also an emphasis on group work. And I know I don't need to tell you this, but there's a very strong correlation between attendance and results. Those students that attend regularly do well, and those students that don't attend very well tend not to have very good results. And well, we can't be entirely sure what the future of the delivery is going to be as we go forward, but most universities are anticipating a blended learning approach with a mixture of face-to-face, campus-based teaching, as well as some online teaching. And in terms of the assessment at Bournemouth University, the assessment is primarily through coursework. That might be reports, it might be presentations, case studies. You might have time-constrained papers, which are like takeaway exams. And you may also have to do electronic submissions. Amongst the many facilities at Bournemouth University, if I just highlight a few of these, one of them would be our world-class Fusion building, which is a fantastic learning space where we have many of our lectures and seminars taking place, but also where there's a lot of social learning space. You might be able to see in the photo here, lots of students working together in groups, either on the landings on the first or second floor, or perhaps down in the main area there, where there's also a cafeteria. We also have a fantastic library, although, of course, increasingly, much of the learning that you will do and many of the resources that you will use will be online resources using electronic books, electronic journals, and so on. And we have one of the most extensive collections of electronic resources of any university in the UK at Bournemouth. As you might expect, we also have 24-hour open access facilities, including computing labs and printers and so on, and an extensive wireless network. And of course, lots of support because we work increasingly in a web-based environment, so access to applications and websites to help to support your learning, including our virtual learning environment, which is called Brightspace. All good business schools also have lots of professional partners, and we work together with a number of partners, including the Chartered Management Institute, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and professional bodies in accounting, such as the ACCA and the ICAEW. So it's possible, depending on which particular specialization you choose, that you may be able to get some additional accreditation, some additional professional recognition, depending on the program. This is particularly true if you follow the marketing pathway or the finance pathway. I mentioned placements at Bournemouth University because these are really a massive part of our success and our popularity. And students have the opportunity at Bournemouth to do a placement during their third year. This can be anywhere in the world, including if a student wants to back home in their home country, such as Turkey. It has to be a minimum of 30 weeks, and it is supervised. And we have around 1,000 opportunities every year, working with around 500 companies, some very, very famous, and others maybe smaller businesses, SMEs, and family businesses. And one of the great opportunities about doing a placement is you get the opportunity not just to put into practice what you've learned during the first 2 years of the program, but you also get the opportunity to learn on the job, extra training, extra certification, and we give you a huge amount of support during your second year to help you to find a placement with your job application, with interviews, preparing for assessment centres and psychometric tests and so on. Also, whilst you're on placement, you get visited by a placement advisor. One of the main reasons for doing a placement, not just to learn more, is that it's regarded by many companies as what's called a talent pipeline. It's like a one-year apprenticeship, if you like. And a very high proportion of students who've done a placement get invited back by their placement company to work for that company after they graduate. We estimate that around 40% of our students receive an offer of that type. I'm not going to go through this one in detail, but just to show you a few examples of the companies that we work with, you might recognize one or two names here. Companies like Hyundai, JP Morgan, HP, Pfizer, Disney, BMW, Barclays Bank, UBS, and the Ministry of Defense and IBM. And that's just a very small snapshot of the companies that we work with. I want to talk very briefly, and before I hand over to Sideeq, about the students who do well on a business program. And I don't just mean at Bournemouth University, but I think this is probably true of any university in the UK where you want to study business and management. First of all, it's important for you to be interested in solving problems. A business and management program is effectively about solving business problems and being creative and finding solutions. Secondly, it's really helpful if you're passionate about the subject and you're enthusiastic about it. Perhaps one day you want to take over your family business. Maybe you want to go and work in a big corporation. Becoming an independent learner is really critical to being successful as a student in the UK, because in comparison to many other countries, the amount of class contact is perhaps less and the amount of independent study is more. So you have to be comfortable with managing your own time, managing your work, and managing deadlines. You need to be comfortable working in teams. A business and management program is not a good program for the lone wolf. It's not a good program for people that don't like working with other people. You have to be willing to develop your team working skills. And don't believe anyone who tells you that business and management is an easy subject. It is absolutely not an easy subject because you have to study so many diverse subjects: marketing, finance, economics, human resource management. And not very many people are good at all of those subjects, and not many people like all of those subjects. So be prepared to do something that is rewarding, but also challenging. You also need to be willing to develop your interpersonal skills, your communication skills, your team working, your problem solving, your analytical skills. And most of all, of course, we hope that you are interested in success. And perhaps most of all, do you one day want to manage? Do you want to manage a company? Do you want to manage a budget? Do you want to manage a project? Do you want to manage a marketing campaign? So business and management programs, the clue is in the title. It's about managing. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, Tessica Edrim. And I'm going to stop now. I'm going to hand over to Sideeq. And then after Sideeq's presentation, we will take questions from the audience, either from you or through the chat.
Thank you, Mark.
Am I live? Okay, excellent.
You are on.
Cool.
Go ahead,
Mark.
you are on. No.
Thank you, Semra. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dr. Sideeq Mohammed. Mark has certainly set a high bar in terms of presentations to follow. I think we spoke before, and I don't want to repeat too much of what Mark has said, because obviously much of what he says applies to many business schools in the UK. But I do want to speak to some of the things I think you may be wondering about regarding studying in the UK, perhaps around what it's like to live and study in the UK, what you might be able to expect when you come to a UK university, and what kind of support and assistance there might be for you once you make the jump. So I'm going to speak a little bit more generally. Let's get started, shall we? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about KBS first, because obviously that's where I work. KBS is a relatively new business school. We were founded in 1989, and we are the sort of business management accounting arm of the University of Kent. We are quite a large business school. In relative terms, we take in approximately 600 undergraduate students every year onto our programs at Canterbury and Medway. We have 2 campuses. I will say a little bit more about them shortly. We are one of a few, I think there are 100. It is the top 1% of business schools in the world. We are one of a few business schools that is triple accredited. So we are accredited by the AACSB, which is the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business. We are also accredited by AMBA, the Association of MBAs, and EQUIS, which is a European Quality Assurance Association. Again, this makes us one of the better business schools in the world, he said very humbly. KBS is located in the southeast of England, in an area called Kent. I think Kent is often described as the Garden of England. I don't know how true that is, but it's certainly a nice place to live and work. We have 2 campuses, as I mentioned. One's located in Medway, which is slightly closer to London and is situated amidst a number of historic buildings out at what we call the dockyard. And the other is located here, where I live, in Canterbury, which may even be famous enough for you to have heard of it because of its large cathedral. Canterbury and Medway are both small towns. They are, I think, quite quaint and quite quiet places to live, but they have thriving nightlives and a number of different amenities that you might be interested in as a student. And there is a shuttle bus that runs between the 2 campuses. So if you ever find yourself with friends on one campus or the other, you'll be fine getting to them. It's also quite close to London, which I think is a good selling point. We sit on a major rail line, and it's easy to get into London, which is, of course, the UK's capital. We too in Kent have nice beaches. I must say they are not quite as nice as those in Turkey, but if you do study on Medway or at Medway, you'll be studying on the seaside. So if that's something that you are quite attached to, if you, like me, grew up on the seaside, then Medway might be a spot for you. Let's now that we know a bit about KBS, let's think more generally. So why might you want to study a business degree? I think, as Mark said, if you're thinking about a degree in business, it's because business is something you are quite passionate about, something you are quite interested in, something that perhaps to you seems like a way forward for a career or a way forward for a particular interest that you have and want to develop. Maybe it's just something you want to know more about. If so, it's worth thinking about what different areas of business there are. There are obviously the more salient ones, the ones we all know, like accounting and finance. You might study in this area if you're thinking that you might want to be an accountant, or if you want to be a high-profile investor with a magnificent stock portfolio and what have you. You may also be thinking about the more human side of managing. How do I manage and motivate people? How do I deal with a trade union? How do I deal with group dynamics and the complexity of people at work? If so, then you might be thinking about something in the HRM area. Or maybe you're interested in marketing. Maybe you have a passion for advertising and you're very interested in how people get mobilized to look at certain goods, or how certain products focus or sell themselves on the world stage. If so, then marketing might be best for you. There are also degrees that you might begin to think about in things like supply chain management or operations, or how we manage to coordinate production with a factory in one country and a factory in another country and retail in a completely different part of the world, right? And then, of course, there are specialist degrees for people who might think they want to be an entrepreneur, or they want to manage internationally, or that they have a particular interest in a very niche area that's up and coming, like business analytics. These are all areas that KBS covers, some of them at postgraduate, but many of them at undergraduate. So our degrees at Canterbury, for example, we have 4 undergraduate degrees. One is in accounting and finance, and this is accredited by 5 different professional accreditation bodies. So the ACCA, the CIMA, the ICAEW, and others. We also have a marketing degree. This is accredited by the Chartered Institute for Marketing. We also have a degree in international business, which is accredited by the Chartered Management Institute. And of course, my degree program, the management degree. I am head of it. Hi. That's accredited by the Chartered Management Institute as well. All of these degrees cover in different ways these areas of business. And I think if you are thinking about a degree in business, it's worth thinking about what you want to get out of it and what you see yourself doing in the future, because each one of these might be suited for you in a particular way. Of course, if you are thinking about coming to us, it's worth mentioning the Medway campus as well, slightly closer to London on the sea. Wonderful. The Medway campus has 3 degrees. The business and management degree, which is accredited by the Chartered Management Institute, a degree in finance and investment, which we're very excited about, which is accredited by the CFA Institute, and of course, our new program in entrepreneurship and innovation, title subject to a little bit of tweaking, but that program is very interesting. It's very niche for people who are thinking about going into business for themselves, right? All of our degrees come with a number of options for you, depending on what you might see yourself doing. So, for example, if you think that you might want to get as much job experience as you can, so that when you get out into the world of work and you've finished your degree, you are able to easily transition, then you might want to think about doing a year in industry with us. So you might be able to do accounting with a year in industry. And in so doing, you will have the opportunity to do a work placement where you will be situated with an employer, usually, much like Mark mentioned for Bournemouth, they're a partner with us, and we will come out to visit you and say hello as you do so. So you won't be on your own. We also have what's known as the selfie program, where you're able to start your own business and make use of what we call the Aspire space, which is a specific little support network for people who want to start their own business and really accelerate something that's thinking about sustainable business. How do we grow and elaborate business in a sustainable way? Yeah. You also have the option with us to do a year abroad. So you might choose to do, let's say, international business with a year abroad. And this would mean studying with one of our many partner universities for a year after you've completed the second year of your degree. We have partner institutions in Hong Kong, in France, in Germany, in the US. We're currently negotiating new agreements all the time. So there are many options for you to study for a year in another country that might be of interest to you. And I don't think I need to labor the point that that kind of international experience is really, really useful for helping to develop and understand a bit more about not just yourself, but maybe what you might want out of the world of business. We also have the option of a foundation year. The IFP is there for students whose school leaving qualifications aren't really sufficient for direct entry. So if you look at our grade tariffs and you don't quite meet them, then there may still be an option for you in terms of a foundation year. Finally, many of our programs have joint honors options. So, for example, my program, the management program, students might choose to do management and computing, management and philosophy, management and a language like Spanish or German or Italian. And these are opportunities for you to cover multiple subject areas with one degree and really get the most out of what the university has to offer, right? We at KBS believe very strongly that we want to support you on the journey that you want to take. So there are a lot of options for you. So a quick marketing pitch then. Why study with us? We have many corporate connections, as I was mentioning, and these might feed well into your placement year or indeed to your employability after you graduate. We also, as I mentioned, have a great location that I think is quiet enough that you're not lost in a big city, but close enough to big cities like London that you can get on the train and have some fun. We have a particularly diverse student community, and I'll say more about that in a moment. And we also pride ourselves on academic excellence and research-led teaching. So many of our staff, as many staff at business schools do, research in the area that they teach in, and we have been particularly encouraging staff over the last few years to bring their research, bring their expertise into the classroom. So very, very recently, a colleague of mine, Patricia Lewis, who's a senior professor here, did an extensive piece of research on leadership in the finance sector here in London. And she taught a number of workshops on a module that I also teach on, where she was talking about what she learnt from interviewing, I think, around 50 leaders from major financial organizations, right? So we have, I think, a lot to teach you that is relevant and current and important if you are hoping to go into the world of business. And of course, as I've already labored the point, we have a significant number of professional accreditation bodies that are willing to vouch for the quality of our degrees. I want to say a little bit now about being an international student studying in the UK. I was an international student who came to the UK. I can certainly tell you that at 18, you get off the plane and it's a little bit disorienting to try and figure out where you're going to go and what you want to do. But the UK is a very welcoming place, I should think. It's easy in many university towns to acclimate and get get stuck into a group, a community where you'll be able to not just meet other international students, but you'll be able to connect with all different people from all different walks of life and really broaden your horizons. So here at Kent, our student body is particularly diverse. We have staff and students from 157 different nationalities. And there are a number of different ways that you can get into groups with these people, not just inside the classroom, where we will, as Mark was mentioning, often just chuck you into a group with them and expect you to work well, but also outside the classroom, where Kent Union, for example, which is our student body, runs societies or sports clubs, and many of them have a focus on supporting international students. On many occasions, I see emails coming around about the amazing things that our unions, our student societies are doing. So I think there's a lot of support for you to, I think, find your footing at a university like Kent. In general, we have a lot of support for students. So there is a lot on here to just pick out a few things. If you're someone who has kids and is worried about making that kind of transition, we have an on-campus nursery. If you're someone who doesn't speak English as a first language, we also have an English language unit that offers specific support and extra assistance for students. This overlaps with our study skills and information unit. So we have a student advisory service that we call UELT. They offer one-to-one bookable sessions where a student who's not quite sure about their academic skills or what they or if they're quite able to deal with assessments and so on, UELT is there and they can help you. So there are a lot of different avenues for you to gain support at a university, and I imagine that it's true for many others. At KBS, we are particularly proud to support students through what we like to call an employability journey. We have a fancy name for it. It's called our Backpack to Briefcase scheme. I didn't come up with it, but I wish that I did. In the Backpack to Briefcase scheme, it basically means that we try to embed employability at every different stage of your learning journey. So at stage 2, you might have workshops with staff who will talk you through writing up a CV, or who will train you for assessment centers. You might then go on a placement where you get this practical experience of work. You might then come back at stage 3, and there's further support that builds on your placement year to really get you into gear for a permanent life and work, right? We have a dedicated careers and placements team who support you through all of this. So I think the point I want to make is that we are very much thinking about making sure that you are employable once you get to the end of your degree. In terms of a last note from me then, how do you choose? How do you make a decision about coming to the UK to study, whether in general or at this university in particular? My advice is to start thinking about what you want to get out of it and where you will get the best experience, right? So where will you be able to see that there is a good learning and teaching experience, where places a lot of emphasis on the student experience, where has a nice environment, you know, and you can look at campus tours. I'll speak about this in a bit. Where has a program structure and content that applies to you, and so on. In terms of entry criteria, Turkish students with a high school diploma, we are certainly willing to take you with a minimum grade above, I think, 75. Applicants will also be considered with a minimum final GPA of at least 3 or 4. in your exams, I think. In terms of how can you check or where should you go next for information, my advice is to start having a look at the student satisfaction scores for your university prospects. So have a look at what the UK calls its National Student Survey. Have a look at some of the research quality and how well the university is doing on the research assessment survey exercise. This also factors into rankings, as Mark was mentioning. Have a look at some of the entry requirements. Have a look at where we position in certain league tables. All of this is useful, but for me, I think the thing that sold me on the university I ended up going to was you take a virtual tour, or you understand the campus, because this is somewhere you're committing to spending 3 to 4 years of your life, right? You have to see yourself there. And so I think KBS has a virtual tour available. I'd encourage you all to make use of it. That's it from me, I think. Please do get in touch with me if you have any questions. Our head of recruitment, Steve Robinson, is much better at doing this presentation than I am. If you have questions about studying at Kent, please direct them to Steve.
Thank you, Sideeq. Dear students, if you have any questions, please ask them in the question and answer section. We have one question to answer. Nuria has already responded, but let's read that out. For joint honors, do we decide when we apply to UCAS or after we come to the university? And Nuria, would you like to repeat your answer? Let me put you on the screen.
Thank you, Semra, and hello to everyone. Actually, I haven't spoken to you today. My name is Nuria Moyano, and I work at the university. And unfortunately, I am not a teacher, so I work in the international office as a regional manager, and very often I travel to Turkey to talk to the students, and but unfortunately, because of the situation where we are, so I welcome you to my house. So thank you very so much for your chat and your questions. And yes, basically, if you are interested in studying a joint bachelor's degree in the UK, you will have to apply through UCAS, which is our university's admission center. And so basically, it's as simple as that. You need to apply through UCAS, and you have 5 choices, and you can apply to the same university to 5 different choices, or you can apply to 5 different universities. And what is happening is that UCAS will make sure that that application is going to the 5 universities or that you have applied to, and each university will come back to you with the entry requirements that they will be looking for. So basically, that is how the process works. It's a little bit complicated, but once you are in, there is quite a lot of information in the website and even in UCAS that will guide you through. Semra, you are Semra.
On mute.
Yeah.
On mute. Sorry. I have a question for our audience. Thank you, by the way, Nuria. I have a question for our panelists. My question is basically, what should students consider when choosing a business program in the UK? Who would like to start first, Mark or Sideeq?
I think what I'd like to do, Semra, is expand a little bit on what Sideeq already mentioned, because I think he really identified some of the key criteria. I think the first thing is to have an open mind. talk to people that maybe have already studied in the UK, talk to the British Council in Turkey. If you are working with an education agent, talk to the agent. Once you've perhaps narrowed down a few university choices, maybe contact someone like Nuria, who is the regional manager for a particular market, so that you can find out maybe students that have already studied in that university. Most universities have a very thriving Turkish society, so a group of students that have studied at the university or are studying at the university. We might also have a Turkish alumni association, so those are previous students that are now working either back in Turkey or around the world. I think in terms of decision choices, I think Sideeq really highlighted what, for me, is one or two of the most critical things. I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want to get out of this? What is my objective? Is your objective to mostly have a good time and also get a qualification as well? Or is your main priority to get a professionally recognized qualification? Do you value the development of skills as much as you value the development of knowledge? So do you want to find a program which also has a big focus on employability? Or do you want to have a program that is more focused on academic side of things and the research side of things? I think it's really important to be comfortable with two things. One is where you are. Do you want to be in a big city like London or Birmingham or Manchester, which might be a similar feeling to being in Istanbul? Or do you want to be in a smaller place where maybe it feels less urban and less like a city, more like a town? Do you want to be by the sea, or do you want to be in the countryside? So the physical location is quite important. And then the other thing that's incredibly important is the course itself. Is the course appealing? Do you have the opportunity, if you don't like the program that you started on, are you able to make some small changes in terms of your pathway or your options? At University of Kent, Sideeq was talking about the fact that you can do joint honours. Not all universities offer that opportunity. And there are strengths about doing joint honours because you get to study two different subjects, but there are also strengths to doing a single honours program where you will develop more specialised knowledge. One of the benefits of the program that I lead is that we have what we call devolved choice. It's a hard concept to explain, but what it basically means is that you start with a lot of options and a lot of choice and a lot of possibilities. And then as you go through the program, you gradually begin to sort of move away some of those directions and some of those specializations, and you funnel and you specialize into a particular area, whether that's HR or operations or marketing. So I think there's something here which is very, very important, which is research, research, research. Find out as much as you can about the program, about the country, about the area. Use contacts, use the sources of information that are available that Sideeq spoke about, league tables, National Student Survey, and so on. And if there's a single positive that's come out of COVID, the positive is that there's a lot more information now available online, especially virtual tours of the campus, virtual tours of the accommodation, students talking about their experiences through video blogs and so on. So it can feel a bit overwhelming at times because there's so much information, but there are some wonderful people that are around that can help you. So that would be my contribution to that question, Semra.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Sideeq, do you have anything to add? That was comprehensive, but probably you have something
I don't know what I might add to that. The thing that occurred to me while Mark was speaking was that sometimes, it's easy to get lost in all of the material that's available for students, right? Because I'm betting, as much as we're giving a general overview here, Mark would very much like you to come to Bournemouth. I would very much like you to come to Kent, right? I think it's easy to get lost in all of our material. What I would advise, and what I've seen start happening very recently, is that many of our students, both of our campuses, both of our universities rather, have been vlogging about their experience. They've been basically talking about the university on YouTube or other sites, and I think that can be another useful tool for you as well. Hearing what another student thinks. You know, Mark was suggesting reaching out to representatives or societies or past students and alumni. That's all great, I think. My advice would be to try and make sure you see as much of that perspective as possible, because at the end of the day, you're signing up to be a student. It's useful to hear what other students have to say.
Thank you, Sideeq. I think one comment, I can make one comment. I'm sure you already touched on that, but curriculum, please check the, program curriculum, what they offer. At the end of the day, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, but if depending on the, curriculum, they may get business of science diploma through economics, or business of, arts diploma. So they really need to check what the course offers or covers, and then what diploma they will get, and if that diploma will take them to the, their career path, basically. Okay, well, we don't have any other questions. So this means, we can finish the session. Thanks everyone joining us today. I hope you find this session helpful. And our distinguished panelists, Mark, Sideeq, Noria, thank you very much for your contribution. I think this was a really good, session with your help. Okay, then. We are, approaching the end of day, Friday, and tomorrow is the weekend. So you all enjoy your weekend, and have a good weekend. See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Semra.
Bye.